Hi everyone, for today's video, I'm going to be talking about the Fusion Eye series from Sonia G. As you guys can see here, it is a set of 5 brushes that was primarily designed to be used for cream or liquid eyeshadow products. But looking at the size of the brush head now, you can actually use this in any way that you want. May it be for precise concealer application, lipstick application, blush and contour, you can actually use any of these brushes. Now, the Fusion Eye series is actually a companion to the Fusion series that Sonia G released a while back. But the Fusion series here, as you guys can see, has much more bigger brush heads. So this was primarily designed to be used for foundation application, even concealer, and cream and liquid blushes. If you are someone who doesn't want to use pure natural bristled hair brushes and you've been on the market for synthetics, having these 2 sets together is a very nice set to have. And I do have to say, after using the Fusion series for quite some time, I do love that it has a mix of natural goat-haired fibers in them, because it really adds some strength into the core of the bristles. Because sometimes, if you're using pure synthetic bristle brushes, it's a little bit difficult to control the brush. The motions is not so nice, and it's the way that it applies product. It's of course you can blend and you can apply product nicely on the face, but it just takes a little while. But with the Fusion series brushes, well, I haven't had the opportunity to try the Fusion Eye series yet, but with the Fusion series, it has been actually a joy to use, and I am able to apply and blend out product and color in no time. And because of my experience with that, I am expecting the same experience with the Fusion Eye series. Now, before I continue talking about this brush set, I would like to give a huge thank you to Sonia G and to Beautylish for sending this over. I truly appreciate it, and I feel very special and very loved and very seen. So thank you so much for this. Now, to those of you who have been waiting for me to talk about the brush set, I do apologize for that. If you've been following me on Instagram for quite some time, you would know that there were a lot of things that happened and in my social calendar, and also things that were beyond my control. Like, for example, this brush set actually arrived a few weeks ago, but it arrived the day before I was scheduled to fly out to my hometown in Cebu City, because a lot of my friends, really close friends from high school and college, were starting to come back and to visit, after the pandemic, wherein there's a much more lax freedom of movement. So I was actually thinking of creating a video for this as soon as I got it, but I knew it was going to be rushed, and I didn't want to put out anything that's half-baked on YouTube. So that's one thing. And also, there was a series of unfortunate events that led to the delay of uploading a video for the Fusion Eye series. One is that in my hometown in Cebu City, a Korean airplane actually overshot the runway, and it kind of effed up all of the scheduled flights coming out and coming in of my hometown. So that's one thing. And also one other thing, I actually had to go to my home in the province of Marinduque, where my partner and I have a home there. And as soon as I got there, I was actually planning on creating a video for this, but there was actually a huge storm that passed through the island, and it created some substantial damage that we had to take care of that first, fixing the roof, fixing some damage to the walls, things like that. The garden was destroyed. I'm sure if you would have followed me on Instagram, you would have seen what I'm talking about. And also one other thing that causes delay, one of my closest friends from high school, Nat, who I have known since 1996, was also coming back to the Philippines from New York for a visit. And whenever Nat comes home, my schedule gets put on hold, because I really want to spend some time with him. And we actually also went to Japan. So I have just arrived from Japan, and I have a few stuff here that I would like to share with you guys, but I'm going to do that maybe in a vlog, because I haven't unpacked my luggage yet. So I'm just going to show you guys in a future video what I got from the United States, like what Nat sent over to me, and also what I got in Japan. It's not a lot, but I think it's like a fun video for us to have. But anyway, I digress. So let's talk about the Fusion Eye series from Sonia G. The Sonia G Fusion Eye series is a set of 5 eyeshadow brushes, and if we take a look at the design of the handle, we know that this belongs to the Pro series, and it still has this very nice, beautiful red and black color on the handle. We still have this very nice, black ferrule design. And speaking of ferrule design, I do have to say that 2 of the brushes here have rounded ferrules, like these 2 brushes, and then these 3 brushes here have crimp ferrules. So the crimp here that we see on the brushes here is the one that gives these brushes this very nice, fanned out and flat paddle-like brush head design. So that's actually great. And of course, because the ferrule of these 2 brushes are rounded, you have a much more rounder brush head design on these 2. The biggest brush on the Fusion Eye series is called the Jumbo Worker brush, as you guys can see here. And if this looks very familiar, this actually came out in the mini Kiyaki set, and if we put them side by side, we can see that they're much the same, and the only difference is the design on the handle. But the brush head, the way it's flat and the way it fans out into a paddle-like design, it's the same. And if we take a look at it from the top here, they have the same oval shape, so which is actually great, to actually apply and buff colors. So I would like that. Now when I first saw this in the mini Kiyaki set, I said to myself, it actually looks very familiar, and the main reason why I'm saying that is because it actually reminded me of the eyeshadow brush that I got from Chikuhodo during the Keramiki Purple set. This was the holiday release last year that they came out with, and the brush head design here, they're almost the same, wherein they're both flat and they're almost they have a nice paddle-like design that almost flares out into a fan shape, and they do have the same oval brush head here, especially here at the very top. If you guys can see it, they're quite the same. And this eyeshadow brush from the Keramiki set from Chikuhodo actually buffs out color extremely well. So, well, I don't know if they're made from the same company, but this is the reason why this brush actually looked very familiar to me when I first saw it released on the mini Kiyaki set. But speaking of brush head design, I also do have to say that the brush head of the Jumbo Worker reminds me of the brush head from the Jumbo Bronzer. So if we just put them side by side, we can see that the Jumbo Worker and the Jumbo Bronzer has the same flat paddle-like design. So if you've seen me talk about the Jumbo Bronzer, I've told you that this is actually quite amazing for precise application of color and buffing out ability. And I can also say that for the Jumbo Worker, because the Jumbo Worker actually did a demo of this when I first got the mini Kiyaki set, and I actually loved the way that it applied and blended out cream blush on my cheeks. So they work the same. They apply and deliver products extremely well. So in doing this activity and comparing it to some of the brushes from Sonia G and Chikuhodo, it just gives us a little bit of an idea of the ability of what the Jumbo Worker can actually do. Now, speaking of another brush that's very familiar to us is actually the detail brush. And the detail brush also came out in the mini Kiyaki set. And as I've said in that video wherein I reviewed the mini Kiyaki set, the detail brush reminds me of a pencil brush. And the brush head here is actually a little bit longer than the most standard pencil brushes, but as I've said in the video for the mini Kiyaki set, you can use this for detailed application, may it be for eyeshadow or concealer. And again, it's very, very soft on the eyes, so it's not painful. So if you have sensitive eyes, this is a nice brush set to actually have. Now let's go on to the blending brush of the Fusion Eye series, and it's actually called the blender brush, as you guys can see here. So the brush head here, it's not as fluffy here at the base, wherein we see in more blending brushes wherein it's actually wider and it actually has a dome-like shape, but I think there's a certain type of technical difficulty in making a brush like that with synthetic and goat hair mix. But the brush head here actually reminds me of the G5517 brush from Hakuhodo. So let's put them side by side. Although the G5517 brush from Hakuhodo is a little bit thinner here in the belly, it's not as thick, it's not as it's not as full, but they have like almost, they feel very, very similar. But of course the G5517 brush from Hakuhodo is going to be softer. It doesn't have as much resiliency to it, if you guys can see it. And I'm just tapping my finger here in comparison to that of the blender brush from Sonia G. And again, you have to understand that this blender brush from the Fusion Eye series was created to blend out cream and liquid eyeshadow, so you actually need some strength to actually blend out product with an eyeshadow brush like this. But they have the same brush design, I think, so it gives you an idea again of how you can actually use the blender brush from the Fusion series. Okay, now the other brush that I have here is the worker brush from the Fusion series, and the design of the brush head here is actually very similar to that of most brushes that you use to apply eyeshadows on the eyes, wherein it's actually flat and it's petal-like design, and it also tapers into a much more finer point here, especially on the side. And this is actually great if you just want to lay product on the eye. And because this is actually labeled as the worker brush, this is the brush that you're going to use if you want to blend out color, if you want to apply strong color, and if you want to blend it out at the same time. This will really work the product well into the eyelid. So the design of the brush head here is very similar to that of her other worker brushes from her series, but it's not as full here in the belly. So it's also I think a great lay down brush. The size of the brush head here, it really fits very well into my mobile lid. So I'm so excited to try this. And the last brush from the Fusion Eye series is the Builder brush. As you guys can see here, it looks the same as one of her brushes from, I think this is very familiar to the Builder 3 brush. Because the Builder 3 is not available now, the brush head here looks very similar to that of the Lotus Builder brush. The brush head here is actually smaller in comparison to that of the worker brush, but it's actually a little bit wider, and I really love this type of a brush head design because this is what I would use to build coverage, or to use to apply those very creamy and liquidy eyeshadows with a lot of glitter in them. So this type of a brush head can just really help you to pat in those types of formulas so that you don't really get a lot of fall down on the eyes. Alright, so those are the 5 brushes from the Fusion series. So now it's time for us to use them one by one. So first things first, the Jumbo Worker. I've actually shown you guys how I would have used this when I first got the mini Kiyaki set. So if you're interested to see how I would use this for application of blush, I'm going to put a link down to my review of the mini Kiyaki set so that you guys can check that out. But as I have been playing around with the Jumbo Worker from the mini Kiyaki set, I think you can also use this if you want to apply very precise contouring on the cheeks, because from the first release of the Fusion series, I actually do not like using some of the cheek brushes or the foundation brushes for contouring application, because I just found them a little bit too big. The brush heads were a little bit too big, so it actually it doesn't give you that precise application that you need when you are contouring. Although it blends out perfectly, but it's just too big for my taste, if you know what I mean. And also one other thing, by the way, before I continue, the Jumbo Worker is actually bigger and fluffier from the Jumbo Concealer. So I'm just putting this side by side for you to see it here, because I've already talked about, I've already compared these two brushes in my mini Kiyaki review videos, so go check that out if you want to hear me talk about that in detail. But for this video, I'm going to try to use the Jumbo Worker for contouring. So this is my liquid contour that I use. So I'm see how well it blends out the product. Very amazing. I love that. So I'm just going to use this brush now, and I'm just gonna tap it right on top of my cheekbones. And as you guys can see, it's a very precise contour application, and it's also actually able to blend out. Oh, look at that. And I love how soft it looks right now. It's also very easy, I have to say. So if you're someone who loves contouring, this brush is actually great to have because it gives you the ability to be very precise with your contouring application, and you can also blend it out at the same time. So as you guys can see, it's very easy to use this brush when you're applying contouring products, and again, it's a very, it helps you to blend out color in no time. So that's what I love about the Jumbo Worker. But then again, I also love the way that this actually applied cream blush on my cheeks. I really love it. Now for liquid blush, I would prefer to use either like the classic base or the mini base. So the mini base I'd use for like a heavier cream blush because it's smaller and it's rounder and it's more compact, so it's able to blend it out, while the classic base is actually bigger and wider, so I use this for liquid because with liquid it gives you it's not as difficult to blend out on the cheeks. So alright, so this is how the Jumbo Worker blends out contouring product on my skin. Okay, so I'm just moving forward, and I have here a cream eyeshadow. This is from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is in the color Rose Gold, from Her Eyes to Mesmerize. And I'm just loading a little bit of the product here at the back of the cap into the Jumbo Worker from the Mini Keyaki set. And let's just try to see if, how well this will apply and blend out a one-and-done eyeshadow. And it's actually very fast, and it's actually very easy to maneuver on the eyelid. So if you are in a rush and if you just want to apply a one base color on the eye, this brush will actually do the job for you, and just like that, you're done. And also, I'm not seeing any fallout on my cheeks right now, because there's also one thing that I would notice with blending or buffing eyeshadow brushes. They also disturb the glitter on the formula of those types of eyeshadows, and you create a lot of fallout because of that when you're over buffing it. Alright, so I have here one of my most favorite eyeshadow products, and it's the Laura Mercier Caviar Eye Stick. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to apply a very generous amount of this matte eyeshadow all over my eyelid, as you guys can see. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to be using the Worker brush from the Fusion Eye series, and let's try to see how well this brush will work this cream eyeshadow into the eye. I can actually see that it's actually able to blend out the color nicely, and the brush head actually fits well into my socket line, so which enables me to actually create some definition and detailing. Ooh. And let me try to see if I could run that into my lower lash line. And I'm just using the residue that I have picked up while running the Worker brush here all over the eyelid. And I also like that it's not creating any patchiness on the eyelid, because sometimes that's what happens when you're using brushes that are that have some strength in it. It moves the product way too much, but with this one, it actually is able to blend out color extremely well and extremely nicely, and in a much more well blended fashion. Alright, so I'm just going to blend out the edges here, try to create a lift, and I love how well blended the edges are when I'm using this eyeshadow brush. Ooh, I love that. Okay, so now what I want to do is maybe if I would just want to add more gradation of color into my socket line, so I'm going to be getting the blender brush, and I have here a lighter shade of the Caviar Stick from Laura Mercier, and this is in Au Naturel, so it's a much more lighter color, so you guys can see here. So I'm just running the brush head here on the tips of the Caviar Stick. Let me just blend it out a little bit here at the back of my hand, And let me just run that here along my socket line so that we can have that very nice gradation of color. Ooh, it actually blends very well. And mind you, this caviar stick from Laura Mercier, although it's very easy to blend out and apply, sometimes it can, like, there's a certain difficulty that happens with it, because after all, it's a matte eyeshadow color, and mattes are very difficult to blend out, whether it's in a powder form or in a cream or a liquid form. And I'm just so glad that, this brush can really help me to create that very nice gradation of color on the eye. Very, very nice. Now, by the way, if you're watching this and if you want to get into a much more technical detail of how each and every single brush from the Fusion Eye series applies eyeshadow color on the eyes, do check out the blog of Sonia G, because she has done a very extensive write-up about each of her brush from the Fusion Eye series. So go check that out, okay? Because what I'm doing right now is I'm just being intuitive and just showing you guys how I envision I would use these brushes. Okay, so I love it. I love the way that it blended out all of this matte cream eyeshadow. I think this is going to be one of my most favorite brushes to use now, because after all, I use a lot of cream and liquid eyeshadows for work. And this just really helps me to do my job effectively. Love it. Love it. See, very easy. Alright, so now I have the builder brush, and as I've said earlier, I envision to use this brush to apply a lot of very glittery and shimmery eyeshadows. And I have here a very glittery and shimmery eyeshadow, and this is actually the Danessa Myricks Color Fix in Fireworks. And let me just pick up a little bit of that, and let me just apply a little bit of that here in the middle of my mobile lid. So I'm just tapping the brush here. And the reason why I'm doing that is because when I actually pick up the product at the back of my hand, a lot of the shimmer is actually pick up very close to the tips of the brush head. And when I lay it down here on my eyelid, I'm going to get a lot of that shimmer just here near my lash line, as you guys can see that, which is actually perfect for me, because when when I open my eyes and look at you, my my crease actually almost hits my lashes. So having a concentration of that product there will just really help to bring some drama into my eyes, and just to pick up some of the light. Because if I do apply the product in this way, and if I lay the brush this way, I would get more of the glitter here close to my crease, and that's actually technically, well, I mean, it's fine, but it's going to be useless for me, because when I start when I open my eye, my mobile lid is going to fold into my crease, and I'm going to lose the shimmer. So at least in flipping the brush over and applying the color this way, and just putting it in a tapping motion, I am able to apply the drama that I need, that would give life to this matte eyeshadow. Oh, look at that. Very easy. It also blends out very nicely. I love that already. Perfect. Fantastic. Cool. Okay, so the next brush that I have here is the detail brush. Now, I've used this before in the Mini Kiyaki set when I reviewed that, so you can go and check it out and to see what I use that for in that vlog. So today, what I'm going to do is maybe I'm going to use this if I want to enhance my socket line. So I'm going to enhance this some more. And the color that I picked up is actually the color black, so this is going to be very interesting. So I'm just really loading the brush head with the product, and I think this is just way too much, because look at the color of this Danessa Myricks. So let me just blend that out. Okay, so now let me just try to see if I could enhance this socket line. And I'm a little bit scared because black is a very strong color to apply. But I have to say in doing that, it's actually able to apply and blend out the color nicely. And again, I'm being very light-handed with my strokes. Ooh, but look at that. It's actually able, like, you know, if you want to create a very nice 60s kind of a look, this is actually a nice brush to use. So I'm just blending it out, being very light-handed. And the detail brush actually has a very nice way of being, like, you know, adding a very soft definition of color on the eyelid. Very interesting. Look at that. That's so cool. Well, I'm actually a little bit intimidated right now because I'm using the color black. So it might be too strong for me, but, like, you know, we're just playing around today. So let me just try to see if I can blend out the edges. Well, yeah, you can actually blend out the edge quite nicely. So you can create a very nice, like, you know, strong detailing of color. But the only problem that I see right now is because all of the brush heads are actually, like, you know, quite fluffy. So you can't apply a lot of detailing into your eyes. Anyway, let's just try. So I'm using the detail brush right now, and I'm just adding some, like, you know, drama here in the outer V portion of my eyelid. And I'm trying to see if I could apply some smokiness there. Okay, so we're doing this activity. We know, well, I know that you won't be able to create a very, like, you know, structured kind of an eyeshadow look, but you'll always be able to create a very nice soft eyeshadow look on your eyes. So which is actually perfect for me because that's the kind of look that I always go for. It's never structured, it's not, you know, detailed too much, but my eyeshadows are always, like, you know, very soft and well blended, and I already love this eyeshadow brushes for that. And mind you, these Danessa Myricks eyeshadows are actually a little bit difficult to work with, so at least having these eyeshadow brushes in my possession just allows me a little bit of, like, you know, the ability to play around with them and to blend them out extremely fast, because these Danessa Myricks liquid eyeshadows, like, you know, they dry down very, very fast. Okay, and now I'm just using the detailing brush, and I'm just running it, you know, the tips, you know, just running it right into my socket line to add some definition there. Ooh, very interesting. And let me just run that here into my lower lash line. Oh wow, look at that. I was actually quite surprised it was actually able to apply this very thin layer of color here on my lower lash line. I wasn't expecting that to happen because after all the brush head here, it's quite, although it tapers into a finer point at the very top, but it's just a little bit too fluffy for me. But it's actually able to add some nice soft detailing into my lower lash line, and, you know, it's just like emphasizing the cat eye look that I was trying to create. Fantastic. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to add some drama into my mobile lid, and with the worker brush I'm going to pick up some of this liquid lyrics from Lisa Eldridge, and this is a very nice, like, you know, gunmetal kind of a grayish color, and I'm just going to apply that on top of my mobile lid, and I'm just using a tapping motion for this. And I'm concentrating some of the color first here in the outer V portion, and then I'm just slowly running the brush across my mobile lid, and it's actually able to blend out the color nicely. It's also actually able to layer the color nicely onto my eyelid. Fantastic, look at that. Ooh, nice dramatic look. I love it, and I guess no fallout, which is actually amazing. Ooh, love that. And let's add some, like, a little bit of drama. So I have this Chanel liquid eyeshadow. This was from their 2021 collection, I think. So this is no longer available, but I just took it out just for the sake of this vlog. And so I'm going to use the detail brush from the Mini Kiyaki set, and I'm just picking it up here with this detail brush, and I'm just going to add a little bit of some drama here in the inner corner just to add some light and some warmth. And, you know, the detail brush is actually quite doing the nice job of actually blending out this, like, you know, nice gold shimmer. So let me go to town with this so that you just can see it. Oh, very well, very well. It actually did blend it very well, which is a little bit surprising for me because again, as I've been saying, the brush heads are sometimes a little bit too big and also very fluffy, that I wasn't thinking it was able to actually apply like, color and definition and to blend it out at the same time extremely well. Alright, so this is how the Fusion Series brushes from Sonia G applies cream and liquid eyeshadows on the eyelids. I can't say that I have one favorite. I love them all. I'm actually quite surprised that they were actually able to apply and to blend out colors extremely well on the eyes, even some detailing work. Like, I was actually very surprised with that. Now, I'm sure you can use these brushes for powder products. Please let me know if you do use it for powder products, especially for those types of like, cream to powder eyeshadow products. I think these brushes will be very good to use, or those like, very hard pressed powder eyeshadows. This is actually very good to use, but to me, I'm going to be using this exclusively for liquid and cream eyeshadows because, like, I have a lot of other brushes in my collection that I can use for, like, very hard press or cream eyeshadow products. And I'm so glad that I have this now because it actually completes my Fusion series from Sonia G. And again, as I've said earlier, they are actually a great set to have together. Alright, so that's it from me today. I hope that you guys enjoyed me showing you how I would use the Sonia G Fusion Eye Series. And if you have any questions about, like, the Fusion Eye Series or all the products that I use today, please leave them down in the comments box and let's have a conversation about it, okay? Alright, so I'm going to let you guys go now. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope that you're having a good day wherever you are. Bye!